In October 2022, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, commonly referred to as OPEC, and its allies decided to cut oil production by 2 million barrels. According to the Curiosity Guide, this might have major ramifications for economies all throughout the world, particularly those of the US, UK, and India. Considering that both the US and UK are already on the verge of recession, this increase in oil prices might make things far worse for them, even leading to catastrophe. In response, the US is passing a measure called NOPEC. The UK government is enacting a policy known as the Price Cap Plan. In summary, an oil war between Russia, the Middle East, and the West is currently in progress and may determine the direction of global economy in 2023. Considering that the US and UK are already on the verge of recession, this oil spike could worsen their situation, prompting the United States to pass the NOPEC bill and the UK government to deploy something as a response. This amount of oil represents 2% of the world's total oil supply, and it can have serious repercussions on economies across the world, including the US, UK, and India. Both Saudi Arabia and Russia are significant players in the global oil market, and their cooperation is driven by a desire to tame market volatility and stabilize oil prices. The expansion of US shale oil production in recent years, which has boosted competitiveness on the international oil market and increased pressure on prices, has also had an effect on both nations. Geopolitical factors have also influenced the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Russia, particularly in light of escalating tensions with the United States. Both nations have worked to deepen their economic and political relations as a means of limiting US dominance in the area. Both countries have recently been the target of US sanctions. The partnerships between Saudi Arabia and Russia on oil could potentially affect the United States in a number of ways, both economically and geopolitically. Economically speaking, closer collaboration between Saudi Arabia and Russia may result in more stability of the world oil markets, which may have both favorable and unfavorable consequences for the United States. On the one hand, more stability might lower price volatility and offer U.S. energy producers and consumers more predictable market circumstances. The U.S. oil industry, notably those in the oil sector, may be under pressure from greater competition from Saudi Arabia and Russia on the other hand. The Saudi-Russian oil alliance might have geopolitical ramifications for the United States. Saudi Arabia and Russia are both key players in the global oil market, and their alliance may give the greater influence over global energy policy. This might have a broader impact on American foreign policy and erode the U.S.'s supremacy in global energy markets. Although the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have long had close ties, those ties have recently deteriorated due to the disagreement over issues such as Yemen's civil war and human rights. Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman declared earlier that America was just one of their partners, and just like other countries they collaborate with and nothing more. Hence, it will not be wrong to assume that they are the weakest in terms of relationships. Recently, Aramco and Sinopec have signed a deal with the United States has taken positively. One ought to remember the history between the two countries that dates back to the early 20th century to understand why the United States feels betrayed, albeit not true. Saudi Arabia and the United States have had a long relationship, dating back to 1931 when the United States recognized the newfound Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Since then, the new country's relationship has been defined by shared interests in economic, political, and security issues. The discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia in the 1930s was an important milestone in the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States. This resulted in the formation of Aramco, a partnership of American oil corporations that played a major role in the development of the Saudi oil sector. Saudi Arabia became a strategic ally of the United States in the Middle East during the Cold War, producing oil and acting as a counterbalance to Soviet dominance in the region. The two countries have also worked together on military and security issues, such as the Gulf War in 1991 and the War on Terror after September 11 attacks. However, the two countries' relationship has not been without difficulties. One of the major difficulties has been the United States' support of Israel, which has sometimes put Washington at odds with Saudi Arabia and other Arab states. Furthermore, human rights issues in Saudi Arabia, such as the treatment of women and minorities, have strained the relationship at times. However, Saudi Arabia's relationship with the United States evolved considerably in recent years, especially during the Trump era, with economic ties becoming increasingly crucial. The United States continued to be a major commercial partner and investor in Saudi Arabia, and the two countries collaborated to enhance regional stability and defeat terrorism. Hence, it was a mutually beneficial relationship. Their relationship took a dig in 2014 when the United States expressed interest in the nuclear deal with Iran. Saudi Arabia regards Iran as a regional foe and has been skeptical of Iran's nuclear program, which it thinks could lead to the development of nuclear weapons. Exacerbating tensions, the two countries have also been involved in proxy battles in other countries, including Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. Regarding the Iran-US nuclear deal, Saudi Arabia has expressed concerns about the deal's potential impact on regional stability. The Saudi government has expressed reservations about the agreement's potential to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons, with some officials believing that it would embolden Iran and further destabilize the region. Saudi Arabia has expressed alarm over the removal of sanctions against Iran, fearing that it will provide Iran with more resources to bolster its regional activities. Furthermore, the Saudi government has demanded that any agreement with Iran address Iran's ballistic missile program and support for terrorism, which it sees as a major threat to regional security. In summary, Saudi Arabia has been critical of both Iran and the US in relation to the nuclear deal, voicing concerns about the Accord's possible influence on regional stability and Iran's ability to acquire nuclear weapons. It feels betrayed that the US used it first to fight off Iran and now intended to make a deal with them. The situation further worsened owing to the statement made by the current President of the United States, President Joe Biden, regarding the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. On February 26, 2021, President Joe Biden officially blamed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Biden delivered an assessment from the U.S. intelligence community concluding that MBS approved and possibly ordered Khashoggi's murder in 2018. According to the research, MBS has absolute control over the kingdom's security and intelligence organizations, making such an operation exceedingly improbable to have occurred without his knowledge and agreement. In reaction to the news, Biden administration took various actions, including a visa block on those suspected of being complicit in Khashoggi's murder and publishing of a declassified report detailing MBS's involvement. Meanwhile, Mohammed bin Salman is being hailed by a number of people as a revolutionary leader, the likes of whom have not been produced by the current regime. It is due to his efforts to modernize and change the economy, society, and political structure of the country. His acts, however, have been received with criticism and controversy. MBS has initiated a series of ambitious economic and social changes under the Vision 2030 plan, aiming at reducing Saudi Arabia's reliance on oil earnings and modernizing its society, since his appointment as Crown Prince in 2017. These reforms include removing the ban on women driving, introducing cinemas and other forms of entertainment, and promoting tourism. MBS has also taken moves to tackle corruption and improve openness, including the arrest of dozens of high-profile individuals as part of a corruption investigation in 2017. With the decline in oil prices in recent years, the United States was looking to Saudis to increase the prices but failed to secure their output increase. Aramco today even has surpassed Apple in terms of its stock exchange value. Due to the Ukraine war, if the prices continue to increase, the oil sale alone for the Saudi government would garner the amount of $280 billion, which would ensure that Saudi achieves its 2030 vision. This being said, the major blowback to the United States would be the intention of Saudis to replace the petrodollar with the petro-yuan. That is their intention to use the Chinese yuan instead of the American dollars for trade. Russia and Iran, using the sanctions, already wish the same. The British countries have already been deciding on alternative means as well. So now if the Saudis move forward with their decision, it would be a catastrophe for Americans. The dollar would crash and that would worsen the situation for the world as well. In the midst of all this, Americans have started to raise their voices against Saudi Arabia. But whatever the circumstances, it is not easy for the Saudis to leave the United States behind, and that is because a huge amount of Saudi money, which equals to $800 billion, resides in America, and therefore America could freeze it. Saudis could retaliate as well, but then again, they heavily rely on American military support. Whatever the case, one thing is for sure, we are about to see a great shift in international relations and the formation of new friendship blocs. What could it mean for your country? Let us know in the comments.